My son Liam lay in a coma in the ICU after a devastating crash when my mother Catherine called, demanding, "You're needed in Boston tomorrow for Olivia's gala. Be there to help." I refused, saying, "I can't, not now." She snapped, "Skip it and you're cut off for good." I ended the call, erased her number, and on the day of the gala, Liam woke, whispering, "Mom, Grandma's why I got hurt." The hospital smelled like bleach and despair, a sterile assault on my senses as I gripped my son Liam's hand, his small fingers limp against the starched sheets of the ICU bed at Harborview Medical Center. My name is Emma Sullivan. I'm 37, and for the last 96 hours, I've been living in a nightmare that began with a single phone call. The rain-slicked streets of Seattle blurred past my windshield as I sped to the hospital, the words "catastrophic accident" and "critical condition" echoing in my skull like a death knell. Liam, my 12-year-old boy, my everything, was hit by a drunk driver while biking with his friends. A collision so violent it left his bike a twisted wreck of metal engulfed in flames on the side of a muddy trail. The driver? Some politician's spoiled kid, barely old enough to drink but old enough to destroy my world. I hadn't slept since that call. My eyes burned bloodshot from crying and staring at the monitors that tracked Liam's fragile hold on life. Beep, beep, beep. The rhythm of his heart monitor was both my lifeline and my tormentor, a reminder that he was still here, but barely. Tubes snaked from his mouth, his chest, his arms, each one a cruel necessity to keep his shattered body functioning. His face, once so full of his father's dimples and my stubborn spark, was swollen, bruised, unrecognizable beneath bandages and the shadow of a medically induced coma. The doctors said it was to give his brain a chance to heal from the hemorrhaging, but every second he didn't open his eyes felt like a theft of hope. I was drowning in this sterile hell when my phone buzzed, shattering the silence. The screen flashed Catherine Sullivan, my mother. My stomach twisted. For 4 days she'd been silent, not a single call or text to check on her grandson. I answered, hoping against hope for comfort, for some shred of maternal instinct. Instead, her voice cut through the line like a blade. "Emma, I need you in Boston tomorrow. Olivia's gala is at 6. You'll help with the preparations. Be there by noon." Olivia, my younger sister, the golden child, was turning 30, and her birthday was apparently more important than my son fighting for his life. I couldn't believe it. "Mom, Liam's in a coma. He might not make it. I can't leave him." Her response was ice cold, dripping with the entitlement I'd known my whole life. "The doctors are handling it, Emma. You're being dramatic. If you don't show up, don't expect another cent from us. Not for you, not for Liam's precious college fund." My blood boiled. I hung up, my hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped the phone. Without thinking, I opened my contacts, found her name, and hit delete. The act felt like severing a chain I'd been dragging for 37 years. But the weight of her threat lingered. $500,000, 0 cents in Liam's trust fund, gone. My mother. Catherine had always wielded money like a weapon, and now she was aiming it at my son's future while he lay broken in a hospital bed. I leaned over Liam, whispering, "I'm here, buddy. I'm not going anywhere." But even as I said it, a chill ran down my spine. A crumpled note had been slipped under Liam's chart while I was distracted. It scrawled words making my heart stop. "You'll pay for what you wrote, Emma Sullivan." I wasn't always this woman, teetering on the edge of collapse, defying a family that had shaped me with cruelty disguised as love. Growing up in a pristine Boston suburb, our colonial mansion was a stage for Catherine's obsession with perfection. Failure wasn't an option, it was a sin. My mother, a former socialite turned philanthropist, ruled our home with an iron grip, her expectations sharper than any knife. Olivia, 4 years my junior, was her masterpiece. Harvard law, polished charm, a smile that could disarm a room. I was the disappointment, my solid grades and gritty passion for investigative journalism dismissed as mediocre next to Olivia's accolades. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" was the refrain of my childhood, each word a lash that left invisible scars. My father, Richard, a corporate lawyer, was a ghost in our home, always at the office or on a plane to some high-stakes deal. When he was around, he'd offer tired smiles and weak defenses. "Your mother just wants what's best, Emma." But what was best in Catherine's eyes was for me to become Olivia's shadow, a carbon copy of her perfection. I fought back in my own way. In high school, I found solace in the school newspaper, digging into local corruption stories, a councilman skimming funds, a principal fudging test scores. It was my rebellion, my way of carving out an identity that wasn't defined by Catherine's yardstick. College was my escape. At Boston University, I met Jake, a Navy SEAL candidate with a laugh that could light up a room and a heart that saw me for me. He loved my late-night rants about corrupt politicians, my dog-eared notebooks filled with leads, the way I'd sneak into abandoned buildings to snap photos for my stories. He didn't compare me to anyone. When I told Catherine about our engagement at 22, her face twisted like I'd spat in her wine. "A soldier? You're throwing away your future for a grunt?" she sneered. I didn't care. Jake's family, salt-of-the-earth folks from a small Oregon town, welcomed me with open arms. Sunday barbecues, bad jokes, and a warmth I'd never known in my own home. We married in a simple ceremony on a Puget Sound beach, Catherine's absence a loud statement. Richard showed up, slipping me a check with a whispered, "I'm proud of you, kid." It was the only time I felt he truly saw me. A year later, Liam arrived, his tiny face a perfect blend of Jake's dimples and my green eyes. Even Catherine softened for a moment, cooing over him. But it didn't last. Soon, she was back to her old tricks, criticizing my parenting, insisting Liam needed elite preschools, dismissing my freelance journalism gigs as hobbies. When Jake deployed, I leaned on my parents occasionally, but every favor came with strings. "You're holding him too much, Emma. You'll make him soft," Catherine would say, or, "That pediatrician's a nobody. I'll get you an appointment with Dr. Langley." Then came the day that broke me. 2 officers at my door, their faces grim, a folded flag in their hands. Jake was gone, killed in a covert mission in Syria. I was 29, a widow with a 5-year-old who kept asking why Daddy wasn't on his video calls anymore. Grief was a tidal wave, but Liam needed me to be his anchor. I moved us to Seattle, trading Boston's suffocating expectations for a fresh start. I took a job running a nonprofit for veterans, pouring my heart into helping families like ours. Jake's benefits and my salary kept us afloat, but we lived lean in a 1-bedroom apartment near Liam's school. Catherine saw it as failure. "You can't raise a boy alone in that shoebox," she'd say, pushing me to move back to Boston, to her control. She sent Liam extravagant gifts. A $500 0-cents robot kit, a designer jacket. Each one a reminder of what I couldn't give him, each one planting doubts in his young mind. Despite it all, I kept ties with my family for Liam's sake. He loved his cousins, Olivia's twin boys, and the rare moments when Catherine wasn't critiquing me felt almost like family. Richard was my quiet ally, sneaking calls to check on us, always when Catherine wasn't around. Olivia, now a federal prosecutor married to a senator, lived a life straight out of a magazine. Beacon Hill mansion, charity boards, perfect kids. Every family gathering was a stage for Catherine to highlight the gap between us. "Olivia's boys are reading Tolstoy at 8, she'd say, glancing at Liam's math homework with a sigh. "When was the last time you took Liam anywhere special, Emma?" But Liam and I were building something real. He was 12 now, a lanky kid with his dad's kind heart and a knack for robotics. He'd joined the school's STEM club, spending hours tinkering with circuits. We'd planned our first real vacation, a camping trip in the Cascades, just the two of us, under the stars. Life was hard, but it was ours. Until that stormy Saturday morning when everything shattered. Liam burst into our kitchen, his sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, buzzing about biking with his friends. "It's just down the trail, Mom. Jake's dad is driving us. Can I go?" I checked his helmet, his phone, the usual mom routine. "Be back by 4, okay? We've got that robot kit to finish." He grinned, rolling his eyes. "I'm not a baby, Mom." I watched him pedal off from our apartment window, his red jacket bright against the gray Seattle drizzle. That was the last moment I felt whole. At 11:27 a.m., my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. A woman's voice, calm but urgent. "Are you Liam Sullivan's mother?" My heart stopped. "There's been an accident. A car hit the bike group on the Ravenna Trail. Liam's critical. He's being airlifted to Harborview." The world tilted. I don't remember grabbing my keys or driving through the rain, but I remember the ER doors sliding open, the chaos of shouting nurses, flashing lights, and the smell of burning rubber still clinging to my nightmares. A surgical liaison met me, her eyes kind but guarded. "Liam's in surgery, severe head trauma, shattered pelvis, internal bleeding. The neurosurgeon's working to stop the brain bleed. It's touch and go." I collapsed into a plastic chair in the waiting room, surrounded by other families in their own private hells. The politician's son, the driver, was already a headline, his family's PR team spinning the story, painting Liam and his friends as reckless kids. Reporters swarmed the hospital, their cameras flashing as I shielded my face, their questions cutting deeper than I expected. "Miss Sullivan, is it true you're using your son's tragedy to revive your journalism career?" one shouted, twisting my past into a weapon. I'd exposed corruption in my 20s, stories that cost powerful people their jobs. Now, it seemed, they were circling back for revenge. Surgery lasted 8 hours. 8 hours of pacing, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to since Jake died, bargaining with the universe. If Liam lived, I'd give anything. My job, my pride, my life. When the surgeon finally emerged, his face was unreadable. "We stopped the bleeding, but the swelling's severe. He's in a coma to protect his brain. The next 48 hours are critical." They let me see him, and the sight nearly broke me. My boy, my vibrant, laughing boy, lay motionless, a maze of tubes and wires. His head was shaved, bandaged, his face swollen beyond recognition. I took his hand, careful of the IV, and whispered, "I'm here, Liam. I'm not leaving you." The first night, I found the note, tucked under Liam's chart, scribbled in jagged handwriting. "You'll regret what you did." My breath caught. I'd made enemies as a journalist, politicians, CEOs, even a crime boss whose empire I'd helped dismantle. Was this one of them? I showed it to Nurse Maria, a no-nonsense woman who'd become my anchor. "Probably a prank," she said, but her eyes were wary. "I'll tell security." But security was stretched thin, dealing with the media circus outside. I felt eyes on me, a shadow in the hallway that vanished when I turned. Someone was watching, and I didn't know why. Catherine's call came on day 4, as I sat hunched in the ICU, my coffee cold, my body aching from the recliner I'd turned into a bed. Her voice was a slap, demanding I fly 3,000 miles for Olivia's Gala, a glittering event for Boston's elite. I tried to explain. Liam's brain, his broken bones, the ventilator breathing for him. She didn't care. "You're embarrassing the family, Emma. Olivia's worked hard for this moment. If you can't be bothered, don't expect our support. That trust fund for Liam, it's not guaranteed." I saw red. "My son might die, and you're worried about a party?" Her reply was a dagger. "Don't exaggerate. He's in good hands. Be in Boston tomorrow or you're done." I ended the call, my hands trembling with rage. Delete, block, done. But the weight of her words hit hard. That $500,000, 0 cents was Liam's college, his future, a safety net I couldn't provide on my nonprofit salary. I'd fought for years to give him stability, to prove we didn't need Catherine's strings-attached charity. Now I'd burned that bridge, and the cost was staggering. I leaned over Liam, my tears falling on his hand. I chose you, buddy. Always will. But as I said it, I felt that shadow again, a presence in the corner of my vision. Another note appeared that night, taped to the ICU door. You can't hide from the truth. The hospital became a battleground. On day 5, a power surge hit the ICU, Liam's ventilator flickering for a terrifying 10 seconds before backup generators kicked in. Maria called it a freak glitch, but I saw the maintenance worker linger too long near Liam's room, his eyes avoiding mine. Was it connected to the notes? My old instincts kicked in, the journalist who'd chased leads through dark alleys. I started asking questions, but the hospital staff stonewalled me, citing protocol. Meanwhile, the media frenzy grew. A tabloid ran a story claiming I'd staged Liam's accident for attention, dragging up my old exposés. Local hero or fame-hungry hack, the headline screamed. I wanted to scream back, but Liam needed me focused. Then came the legal threat. The politician's family sent a lawyer to the hospital, a slick suit with a shark's smile. Our client believes your son's group provoked the accident. We're considering a countersuit for damages. I stared, dumbfounded. Provoked? They were kids on bikes. Your client was drunk. He shrugged, unmoved. Think about settling, Miss Sullivan. We have resources you don't. It was a power play, pure and simple, and it lit a fire in me. I'd fought bigger bullies than them, but the timing couldn't have been worse. That night, I found my car in the hospital lot with its brake lines cut. I stood in the rain, staring at the dripping fluid, my heart racing. This wasn't random. Someone wanted me scared, maybe dead. I called the police, but they brushed it off as vandalism, too busy with the politician's scandal to care about a single mom's paranoia. I switched to buses, checking over my shoulder, the notes now a constant, slipped into my purse, left on my chair. You'll lose everything. I didn't tell Maria, didn't want to burden her. But I slept with my keys in my fist, ready to fight whoever was coming for us. Liam's first sign of life came on day 5, a twitch of his fingers as I read him his favorite sci-fi book. I froze, my voice breaking. Liam, can you hear me? Another twitch, then a faint eyelid flutter. Maria rushed in, checking monitors. His brain activity spiking. This is good, Emma. The neurologist, Dr. Chen, confirmed it. Liam was fighting his way back. They reduced his sedation, and by evening his eyes opened, unfocused but alive, locking onto mine. Mom, he mouthed around the ventilator, and I sobbed, clutching his hand. He was back, my boy was back, but the road ahead was long. Brain damage was still a risk, and his body was a map of fractures. Catherine and Olivia chose that moment to storm in, their designer heels clicking like gunfire. You've ruined everything, Catherine hissed, her face a mask of fury. Olivia's gala was a disaster without you. Do you know how humiliated we were? I stood my ground, my voice low but steel. My son woke up from a coma last night. I don't care about your party. Olivia, ever the diplomat, tried to play peacemaker, but her words dripped with condescension. We get it, Emma. Liam's hurt, but family comes first. You could have sent a gift. I laughed, bitter and raw. A gift? While he's fighting to breathe? I laid down the law. 5 minutes with Liam, no stress, or they're out. Catherine's eyes flashed, but she complied, playing the doting grandmother for Liam's benefit. He was groggy, confused, but her presence unsettled him. Why's Grandma mad? he whispered later, his voice raw from the ventilator's removal. I hedged, protecting him. We just had a disagreement, buddy. I'm here, and that's what matters. He squeezed my hand, his trust anchoring me against the storm. The threats didn't stop. The stalker escalated, cornering me in the hospital garage late one night, his face hidden under a hood. "Retract your story on the syndicate or Liam pays," he growled, a knife glinting in his hand. I froze, my heart pounding, but a security guard's flashlight scared him off. I reported it, but the police were useless, citing lack of evidence. My nonprofit board added pressure, emailing that donors were pulling funding due to my prolonged absence. I was risking my job, my income, everything I'd built for Liam. And then Catherine's lawyer called, threatening a custody battle, claiming I was unstable and unfit to raise Liam. It was a gut punch, her ultimate weapon to bring me to heel. But Liam's recovery kept me going. He took his first steps with a walker, his grin lighting up the room. "I'm gonna build a robot to carry me, Mom," he joked, and I laughed through tears. My coworkers stepped up, bringing meals, driving Liam to therapy. Jake's parents flew in from Oregon, their hugs a reminder of what family could be. Catherine cut us off, freezing the trust fund, but I sold my car, took freelance gigs digging into the politicians' corruption. Dangerous work, but it paid. I was done with her strings. A year later, Liam turned 13 in our tiny apartment, surrounded by our chosen family, co-workers, Jake's parents, kids from Liam's STEM club. Catherine and Olivia sent cards, laced with guilt, but I tossed them unopened. Liam, wiser than his years, asked, "Are we done with Grandma?" I looked at him, my boy who'd fought his way back from death. "Sometimes, buddy, you have to choose the family that lifts you up, not the one that tears you down." He nodded, his scar from surgery catching the light. "Dad would be proud of you, Mom, for fighting." He fought all right. For him, for us, against stalkers, lawsuits, and a mother who'd rather see me break than stand tall. The questions linger. Who's behind the threats, and what do they know about my past? Will Catherine's custody play succeed? Can I take down the politician's family without losing everything? What secrets from Jake's death might unravel if I dig too deep? And will Liam's strength carry us through the battles ahead? One thing's certain, we're survivors, and no one, not Catherine, not some shadowy enemy, will take that from us. Chapter 2. Shadows and Strength. The ICU at Harborview Medical Center was a world of sterile white walls and relentless beeps, a prison where time crawled and every second was a battle between hope and dread. I'm Emma Sullivan, and for 6 days I'd been chained to my son Liam's bedside, my heart tethered to the fragile rhythm of his heart monitor. My 12-year-old, my anchor, lay broken from a drunk driver's catastrophic collision, his bike a charred wreck, his body a map of fractures and bruises, his brain locked in a medically induced coma. The politician's son responsible was already spinning the narrative, his family's wealth shielding him while my world unraveled. But it wasn't just the accident threatening to destroy us. Shadows were closing in, literal and figurative, and I was fighting a war on multiple fronts with no idea who I could trust. Day 5 had ended with a miracle. Liam's eyes fluttered open, his groggy mom mouthed around the ventilator, a lifeline that pulled me back from despair. But the victory was fragile, overshadowed by my mother Catherine's ambush. She and my sister Olivia stormed into Liam's room, their designer coats dripping Seattle rain, their faces twisted with indignation over my absence at Olivia's Gala birthday in Boston. "You've humiliated us," Catherine spat, as if my son's fight for life was a minor inconvenience. I stood my ground, setting ironclad boundaries, 5 minutes visits, no stress, or I'd call security. They complied, but their presence left a bitter aftertaste, like poison seeping into the air. Liam, barely awake, sensed the tension. His whispered, "Why's Grandma mad?" cutting deeper than Catherine's threats to cut off his $500,000 0 cents trust fund. Now, on day 6, as dawn painted the Seattle skyline in muted grays, I sat clutching Liam's hand, his fingers still weak but warm. Nurse Maria, my rock through this nightmare, checked his vitals, her dark eyes softening. "He's breathing on his own, Emma. That's huge." The ventilator was gone, removed hours ago, and Liam's raspy "I'm hungry" had sparked a laugh through my tears, a small, precious sign he was fighting his way back. But Dr. Chen, the neurologist, tempered my hope. "He's not out of the woods. Cognitive impacts could still surface. We'll know more in the coming days." I nodded, my throat tight, refusing to let fear steal this moment. Liam's eyes, so like his father Jake's, held mine with a trust that anchored me against the chaos. Chaos was the right word. Beyond Liam's recovery, threats were multiplying. The notes kept coming, each one more menacing than the last. The latest, found taped to the ICU coffee machine, read, "You can't protect him forever." My past as an investigative journalist had left a trail of enemies, corrupt officials, corporate sharks, even a crime syndicate I'd exposed in my 20s. Was one of them behind this? The hospital's power surge on day 5, which briefly disrupted Liam's ventilator, wasn't an accident. I'd overheard a maintenance worker muttering about cut wires before he clammed up under my glare. Someone was targeting us, and I was alone in this fight, the police dismissing my reports as hysteria from a stressed mom. Then there was the legal assault. The politician's family, the Bradfords, had sent their lawyer with a chilling threat: settle or face a countersuit claiming Liam's bike group provoked the accident. It was absurd, kids on a trail versus a drunk 21-year-old in a Porsche, but their wealth made it a credible threat. My nonprofit board added to the pressure, emailing that donors were pulling funds due to my absence. "Return to work or we'll replace you," their message read, cold and final. I was risking my job, my income, everything I'd built to keep Liam and me afloat since Jake's death in Syria 7 years ago. And Catherine's custody threat loomed largest of all, her lawyer's letter arriving that morning. "We intend to seek guardianship of Liam Sullivan, citing your unstable environment." Unstable. The word burned. I was his mother, his protector, and she dared to weaponize my love against me? I was staring at the letter, my hands trembling, when Maria touched my shoulder. "Emma, you haven't eaten in 2 days. Let me sit with Liam. Go to the cafeteria, just 20 minutes. Her voice was firm but kind, a lifeline I couldn't refuse. I nodded, reluctantly leaving Liam's side, his soft snores a fragile comfort. The hospital cafeteria was a fluorescent haze, the smell of overcooked soup mingling with my exhaustion. I grabbed a sandwich, sat by a window overlooking the rain-soaked parking lot, and tried to breathe. Outside, life moved on, people rushing to their cars, oblivious to the war I was fighting. My phone buzzed. Another text from Olivia. "You've broken Mom's heart. Liam's awake now, so why can't you apologize?" I silenced it, my jaw tight. Apologize for choosing my son? Never. As I took a bite, a shadow fell across the table. A man in a gray hoodie stood too close, his face obscured. "You're Emma Sullivan, right?" His voice was low, rough, like gravel under boots. My pulse spiked. "Who are you?" I demanded, my hand inching toward the fork. He leaned in, his breath sour. "Retract your story on the Marconi syndicate, or Liam won't make it home." The Marconi case, my biggest expose, a Boston crime family linked to City Hall corrupt. I thought that chapter closed, but this man's eyes, cold and unblinking, told me otherwise. Before I could respond, he slipped into the crowd, leaving a folded note on the table. "Last warning." I bolted up, scanning the room, but he was gone. My heart pounded as I shoved the note into my pocket and raced back to the ICU. Maria was adjusting Liam's IV when I burst in, breathless. "Everything okay?" she asked, her brow furrowing. I hesitated, not wanting to drag her into my mess, just needed to be back. I couldn't tell her about the stalker, not yet. But as I sat by Liam, his small chest rising and falling, the weight of the threats crashed over me. The Marconi Syndicate. I'd exposed their money laundering in my 20s, leading to arrests, but whispers of retaliation had followed me for years. Had they found me now, when I was most vulnerable? I pulled out my old journalist notebook hidden in my bag and started jotting down names. Contacts, leads, anyone who might know something. If they were coming for Liam, I'd fight back, no matter the cost. The day stretched on, each hour a tightrope walk between hope and terror. Liam's progress was a beacon. By noon, he managed a weak smile, his raspy voice asking for his robotics kit. "Can we build the rover when I get home, Mom?" I laughed, tears spilling. "You bet, buddy. Biggest rover ever." But Dr. Chen's latest update tempered my joy. His cognitive tests are promising, but we're seeing minor memory gaps. It could be temporary or he didn't finish, but I knew. Brain injuries were unpredictable. I clung to Liam's hand, whispering stories of Jake's adventures, keeping his father's memory alive to anchor him. Then came the second blow. My phone rang. Richard, my father, his voice heavy with conflict. "Emma, I'm at the hospital. Can we talk?" He stood in the hallway, his tailored coat out of place among the scrubs and chaos. I stepped out, keeping Liam in sight through the glass. "Catherine's serious about the custody filing," he said, avoiding my eyes. "She thinks you're spiraling, that Liam needs stability." I laughed, bitter and raw. "Stability? She threatened to cut him off while he was in a coma, and you're enabling her." His face crumpled, torn between loyalty to his wife and love for me. "She's scared, Emma. This accident, it's out of her control." I shook my head. "That's not an excuse. She hasn't even asked how Liam's doing." He sighed, defeated. "I'll try to come back tomorrow. Alone." I let him go, my heart heavy but resolute. The hospital wasn't safe anymore. That night, as I dozed in the recliner, a crash jolted me awake. A tray of medical supplies lay scattered across the floor, and a figure darted out of Liam's room. I screamed for Maria, who rushed in, checking Liam's monitors. "Everything's stable," she said, but her eyes scanned the room warily. A syringe lay among the debris, unmarked, not part of Liam's protocol. "Could be a mistake," Maria muttered, but I saw the doubt in her face. Someone had been here, tampering, and I was done waiting for answers. I called an old contact, Sam, a retired PI who'd helped me on the Marconi case. "I need you to dig," I told him, voice low. "Someone's after us, and I think it's tied to Boston." He promised to start immediately, but warned, "If it's Marconi, Emma, you're in deep. They don't forgive." The next morning, the Bradford family's lawyer returned, this time with a settlement offer. $50,000 0 cents to drop any charges against their son with a gag order. "Take it, or we'll bury you in court," he said, smirking. I tore the papers in half. "Your client nearly killed my son. I'll see him in jail." His smile vanished, and as he left, he muttered, "You'll regret that." Hours later, a news alert pinged my phone. A local outlet, fed by Olivia, had published a hit piece. "Reckless journalist endangers son," sources say. It twisted my Marconi expose, painting me as a fame-hungry hack who'd provoked enemies now targeting Liam. Olivia's betrayal stung worse than Catherine's threats. She'd weaponized my past to curry favor with our mother. I was reeling when Maria pulled me aside. "Emma, you need to see this." She handed me a security report from the hospital's night shift. A maintenance worker, the same one I'd seen after the power surge, had been fired for unauthorized access to the ICU. His name, Tony Marconi. My blood ran cold. The syndicate wasn't just a ghost from my past. They were here, now, and they knew where to find me. I called Sam again, my voice shaking. "It's them. Marconi. They're in the hospital," he cursed. "Lay low, Emma. I'm coming to Seattle." Pressure was closing in from all sides. My board sent a final warning: return to work by Monday or lose my job. Catherine's lawyer emailed, demanding a meeting to discuss Liam's welfare. The stalker's notes grew bolder. One slipped into my coat pocket. "You're out of time." And Liam, my brave boy, was starting to notice. "Mom, why are you so scared?" he whispered during a lucid moment, his eyes searching mine. I forced a smile, brushing his hair back. "Just tired, buddy. You focus on getting strong." But inside, I was fracturing, the weight of enemies, family, and my own fear threatening to crush me. Then came the night that changed everything. I was in the family lounge grabbing a coffee when the fire alarm screamed. Chaos erupted, nurses shouting, patients being wheeled out, smoke trickling from a vent in the ICU wing. I sprinted to Liam's room, heart in my throat, only to find his bed empty. "Where is he?" I screamed at Maria, who was herding patients to safety. "Evacuated to the East Wing," she yelled over the alarms. I ran, shoving past panicked staff, my mind racing with one thought: Marconi. They'd used the chaos to get to him. I found Liam in a makeshift triage area, his eyes wide with fear. "Mom, someone tried to take my IV out," he whispered, clutching my hand. A nurse confirmed it. A man posing as staff had been intercepted, but he'd vanished into the crowd. Didn't sleep that night, sitting vigil as Liam dozed, my mind spinning. Sam arrived at dawn, his grizzled face grim. "Tony Marconi's a low-level cousin, but he's connected. The syndicate's got a long memory, Emma. Your exposé cost them millions." He handed me a burner phone. "Use this. They're likely tracking you." I nodded, my resolve hardening. I wasn't the scared 20-something who'd written that story. I was Liam's mother, and I'd burn their empire down again if it meant keeping him safe. The next day, Liam took his first steps with a walker, his grin a defiant spark. "I'm gonna beat this, Mom," he said, and I believed him. But Catherine wasn't done. She showed up unannounced, her face a mask of calculated concern. "I've filed for emergency custody," she said, voice low so Liam wouldn't hear. "You're putting him in danger with your reckless past." I stepped close, my voice a hiss. "You don't get to play savior now. You abandoned him when he needed you most." She flinched, but her eyes were steel. "You'll lose, Emma. I always win." I was done playing her game. I called a lawyer friend, Rachel, who took my case pro bono. "Catherine's got money, but you've got truth," she said. "We'll fight this." I dove back into my old files, digging for dirt on the Bradfords to counter their lawsuit. A leaked email from their son's friend revealed he'd been drinking at a private club owned by, surprise, a Marconi associate. The pieces were falling together, but the danger was escalating. A car followed me home from the hospital, its headlights too close in the rain. I lost them in a maze of side streets, my heart pounding, but the message was clear. I was a target. Liam's recovery became my North Star. By week 2, he was reading his robotics manuals, joking about building a bionic leg. His headaches lingered, but his spirit was unbreakable. "Dad would say you're a badass, Mom," he told me one night, and I laughed, tears streaming. Jake's memory was our shield, his belief in me a fire that kept me fighting. My community rallied, coworkers brought casseroles, Jake's parents sent care packages from Oregon, Liam's STEM teacher dropped off a new circuit board. They were our chosen family, filling the void Catherine left. The climax came on Liam's 13th birthday, a year after the accident. We celebrated in our tiny apartment, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, laughter echoing as his friends played video games. Rachel called with news. Catherine's custody filing had been thrown out, her claims of my instability debunked by Liam's doctors and teachers. The Bradfords settled out of court, their son facing charges thanks to my leaked evidence, and Sam tracked down Tony Marconi, now in custody for attempted assault, his confession linking the syndicate to the hospital sabotage. The note stopped, the shadows retreated, and for the first time I breathed. Catherine sent a card, her handwriting sharp with passive-aggressive barbs. I burned it in the sink, Liam watching with a nod. "She never got you, Mom," he said, his voice stronger now. "But I do." We sat on our balcony, the Seattle skyline twinkling below. "Dad would be proud," he added, and I pulled him close, tears falling. We'd lost the trust fund, the inheritance, the illusion of family, but we'd gained something unbreakable. Each other, our resilience, a life free from manipulation. What secrets still lurk in my past, waiting to resurface? Will the Marconi syndicate strike again? Can I rebuild my career without losing myself? What strength will Liam uncover as he grows, and will Catherine ever understand what she's lost? One thing I know, we're survivors, and no shadow, no threat, no betrayal can break us. We've built a family on love, not obligation, and that's a victory worth fighting for.